Hey you guys, it's Chrissy. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk about a very controversial subject of credit card use. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from the Dave Ramsey community on this, but I do believe personally that if you are able, if you have the control to use your credit cards on a monthly basis and pay for them on a monthly basis, like use it and then pay it off completely. If you have that behavior in you, then I think it's perfectly fine to use credit cards. I don't see anything wrong with that. As long as you're still budgeting that money in your monthly budget, you have the cash available to pay off that credit card in full every month, then that is a responsible way to use your credit cards. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Actually, I think it's safer because you're not using your own money, you're using the bank's money to pay for purchases. If you're doing online shopping, then that's the safer choice as well, because so let's say if you use your account online and for some reason your bank information gets stolen, if it's a credit card, then you can just call the bank and tell them that this was a fraudulent purchase and they'll take that right off and investigate. Whereas if it's a debit card, sometimes they won't take that charge off right away. They'll investigate it first. Sometimes they will take the charge off if it's small, but I had someone who told me they had like $7,000 in fraud charges and the bank would not take them off until they made an investigation, and that freaked me out. You can call your credit card company and ask them how long it is that you have to pay down your card without accruing any interest. So that may be a question that you want to ask your specific credit card company. And if there is interest charged, then you want to get rid of that card and don't ever use it, because you don't want to be charged interest for any purchases that you make on a credit card, and you shouldn't be if you're using it correctly. There's benefits to using your credit card instead of your debit card. I don't know if you've heard of this movie called Catch Me If You Can, but it's a movie with actor Leonardo DiCaprio, and he plays as this guy named Frank Abagnale, who is like a con artist, and he goes around cashing all these checks that he made himself, all these fraudulent checks, and he ended up making millions of dollars off of that. He also portrayed himself as like a pilot and a school teacher and a doctor, a lawyer. Like, he did so many crazy things. It's a really interesting movie. I'm not saying it's right what he did, but he learned a lot from it, and he eventually was caught, like most criminals are. And while he was doing his time, the FBI actually wanted to use his knowledge to help them catch other criminals. So he ended up working out his sentence helping the FBI. And then even after his sentence was done, he continued on with the FBI for years. And he did a seminar at my job years ago, and I always loved his philosophy on credit cards. And I trust him because he is a fraud specialist. Like, he knows about fraud and he knows the best ways to prevent it. And that's very important to me. So I feel safer using a credit card than a debit card with certain things. And if you've ever had your identity stolen, or if you've ever had your debit card information stolen, it's pretty scary. So I'm not saying that credit cards are bad, because they do have some benefits to them. So some of the things that Frank Abagnale, you can do a YouTube search on him and you'll see all the videos that he has. His story is pretty amazing. If you haven't heard it, then just search for a couple of videos online or even watch the movie. But just hearing him discuss this stuff is amazing. And it really changed my views on using credit cards. So not only are you getting better protection with using the bank's money for purchases a month, you trust making a payment to your credit card company with your personal bank information. But if you're using your personal bank information like tied to your debit card everywhere, then that information is out there, and it's pretty scary that if that information is accessed, that your own money can be tied up. I just don't like that. So on top of the fraud protections, there's also, you can get cash back and points, and you can use this for traveling. So many years ago, we signed up for one of those travel cards where you get a bunch of points. And I believe it was like 50,000 points if you spend $3,000 within 3 months or so. And we were planning our vacation to Hawaii already. So our flights were like $960 each. And at the time, so that was already almost 2,000 right there. And then anything else that we spent, we just put on a credit card. So when we got to Hawaii, we were planning on staying with my husband's brother, but we decided not to. We decided to get our own hotel. And I just called the credit card company and I told them that I wanted to redeem those points. And I found a hotel through them, and it pretty much paid for our whole hotel stay at Hawaii. So like, that's amazing. And I know for someone like a millionaire, that may not be a lot of money, but to someone like me who's not a millionaire, that's a lot of money. And it's something that, you know, just by using a credit card, I was able to get. And we had the money for that trip and we just paid it off. So it was just a benefit for us. So that's very important. And you don't want to use your credit card and sign up for one of those things if you don't have the money to pay it off. But if you have the money to pay it off, then that's a huge benefit. If you already have built a good credit score, and I know again the Dave Ramsey community is gonna hate me on this because Dave Ramsey does not believe in a credit score, but I think if you spent this time building your credit score, then why would you just throw it away when you could just use your credit card and pay it off every month and still maintain your credit score that way? So that's my personal belief. I do agree with a lot of things Dave Ramsey says, and he's amazing and he's a millionaire. So I would not, you know, take anything away from him, but I believe in the society we live in, it's harder to live without a credit score, and it's harder to live without a credit card. So why would you want to make your life any harder than it already is? I mean, unless you're a millionaire, of course, and you can do things without it, then that's perfectly fine. I'm not judging anyone who decides to not use a credit score, to not use a credit card. That's amazing for you, but also just don't judge me because I want to use one. My whole thing is you have to use it responsibly. If you don't use it responsibly, you do carry a balance from month to month, and then you're not getting ahead that way. Using it and then paying it off and using it again, paying it off, that is the way to use a credit card. Having a balance carry over from month to month to month and making a minimum payment, that is not the way to use a credit card, because you're gonna end up spending years paying down that balance. And then you know what happens is you get a house and then the roof starts to leak, or a pipe breaks, or your AC unit goes out, and then you have to buy a new roof and you have to call a plumber, or you have to call an electrician, and you have to call an HVAC person to fix the AC unit, and it just spirals out of control. So at that point, you're charging and charging and charging and charging everything, and you don't have the money to pay off those expenses. And that's why it's important to plan for those expenses, because we know our roofs don't last a lifetime. We know that they have a limit and we have to save for that. So we know when we first bought our house, we were warned that our AC unit was gonna go out. We didn't make a plan for that. So we ended up using a credit card for that purchase. And although we did pay it off, it took us a couple months to pay it off, but it wasn't something that we planned for. If you plan for this stuff ahead of time, that you have the money available for these larger purchases, don't let them come as a surprise to you, because we all know things don't last. Like appliances in your house, those don't last forever either. So setting up a sinking fund, which all a sinking fund is to save up for an intended purpose over a period of time. And you want to just make sure you're putting these things in your budget for these emergencies that are going to come up, because they will come up. Things do break, and unfortunately we have to replace them and we have to fix them. So just make sure you are setting aside cash to pay for those purchases. Now, if you do have the cash, then you could put it on your credit card and just pay it off, and then you redeem the points and the rewards. So just think about that and make sure you are making that plan for your money. And the most amazing thing that Frank Abagnale taught me about credit cards is that he used his behavior of paying off his credit card every month to help his children. Now let me explain. He added his children as an authorized user on his card. So the card showed up on their credit reports and helped them build their credit. So what he did was, instead of giving them a debit card, which doesn't help build your credit at all, he gave them a credit card when they went off to college. And this way he was able to track their expenses and see what they were spending their money on, but it also helped build their credit. When they got out of college, they had credit scores above 700s, and they didn't really have to do much for it except use the credit card instead of the debit card. And to me, that was genius because it's difficult for an 18-year-old to start building credit. And we've all been there. Like, we know how difficult it is. It takes time. Like, my first credit card, it was a store card, and I believe it was like $100 limit. And it kept going up as I paid it off every month. But I got to a point where I wasn't paying it off every month because there were other things that came up. So it was a learning experience for me, you know? So if you're not using credit cards in the right way, then just don't even use them. Don't even touch them. Now, if you are really bad with credit cards, I do not suggest putting your children on your card as an authorized user because you're just going to damage their credit. So if you do not have control over your money, don't hurt your kids like that. Just forget what I said and move on. But if you are good with paying your credit card on time and you know that you pay it off every month, then this would be a great option for them because it would help them boost their credit score. And when they get out of college, they can purchase a house with good credit. It's difficult to purchase a house if you don't have good credit or if you have no credit. So there's ways it can be done, but you end up paying higher interest rates. I just honestly feel safer using my credit card over my debit card if I'm making purchases or if I'm going somewhere outside of the US, then I feel much more comfortable using a credit card than a debit card. You are free to make your own choices. That's another thing that God gives us is freedom to choose. So you make the decisions in your life and you decide what works best for you. Honestly, I cannot say that it's a bad idea to use your credit card if you use it responsibly. If you pay it off every month and if they're not charging you a yearly fee, you're not paying any interest and you're reaping all the rewards from the card, then I cannot tell you that that's not a good idea. If it works for you, it works for you. We all have to get out of this judgment zone of judging people for doing things differently. Using a credit card does have some rewards and some benefits. So I just want to share that with you and you make your own decisions. But like I said, I know the Dave Ramsey community is going to hate me for this, but I think people are going to make their own decisions and we just need to educate them on the correct way to use a credit card if they decide to use it. Because like I said, we all have a choice in the matter. So I know I'm literally gonna get a few thumbs down from this video from the Dave Ramsey community, but I think his tools are amazing and I believe they set a great foundation for anyone who wants to get out of debt or start paying attention to their finances, and I think he sets a great foundation. There's just the thing that I personally struggle with, which is completely living without a credit score, and I know that a lot of people out there also struggle with that as well. So this is more catered towards them. So I apologize if I am offending you in any way, but I just have a little different perspective and I hope you keep an open mind too, because there are different ways of doing things and I just think we need to be respectful of that and respectful of the decisions that people make with their own finances. I hope that this video helped you. I'm not endorsing credit cards, but I'm just saying they're not so bad if you use them correctly. If you use them the right way, then there's no problem with it. It's actually beneficial to use it if used the right way. If it's not used the right way, then it's gonna hurt you. So just stay away from them if you can't control your spending habits. And that's all I have for today. So thank you for watching.